Hi, my name is Terry Foxworth, and this is the recording for my midterm for Dr. Wood's class of Organizational Psychology. Let's begin. Question 1. How have recent historical events affected the course of research in organizational psychology? Give an example of an event and the resulting outcome. Well, over the last couple of years, sexual harassment in the workplace has become front and center again. And if you watch the evening news, you will see many high-profile individuals either being accused of sexual harassment or admitting to sexual harassment in the workplace. In addition to this, in a recent article, Jacobson and Eaton proposed that there has been a gap in the literature of sexual harassment in the workplace. They claim that there's a gap from around the 1990s all the way up to around 2010 in the literature. Taking this into account and the strong reappearance of this topic in the media, there's no doubt that there will be an accelerated push for research in the area of sexual harassment in the workplace. One concentration of this research in recent times has been the implementation of formal policies. This is to reduce the events or the occurrence of sexual harassment, but also to create an anti-harassment environment in the organizations. Zero tolerance policies have shown the greatest potential to reduce sexual harassment in the workplace. However, most past research has focused on severe forms of harassment. Those are forms where actual sexual advances are made. However, this has left a gap also in the literature because most commonly, or the most frequent forms of sexual harassment include moderate to subtle forms, and these do not include actual sexual advances made on the victim. Jacobson and Eaton in their recent study demonstrated that perceptions of sexual harassment can be directly affected by organizational policies. Salient zero tolerance policies can actually increase the reporting of severe harassment violations as well as the reporting of moderate and subtle violations. This is in comparison to standard policies or no policies. It is important to note in this study that most organizations already have a zero tolerance policy in place. They may even mandate training of this policy and mandate reporting of violations. The key factor in making this work is the salience of these programs and also the importance of norms in the organization related to policy adherence. These two things work together to not only prevent this behavior of sexual harassment, but also to encourage reporting of such violations. The most important part in this is creating an anti-harassment culture. This is what organizations need to work towards, and this is likely where the research will begin to focus. Changing the entire culture of the organization so that it makes acting out or violating sexual harassment policies prohibited and not encouraged, and also creating an environment conducive to reporting violations of such policies. Question number 2. Describe the socialization process for graduate students in your program. Is the program successful in socializing newcomers and creating job embeddedness? Okay, I am a new student at Liberty University. This is my first semester, and I am seeking a master's degree in IO psychology. I have received many communications from the university as a whole. I have received emails, regular mail, phone calls. I have been I've felt like they've really worked hard to make sure that I felt welcome into the university. They have shared with me different ways to become involved, even though I am an online student. Yammer, many groups on Yammer, showing me ways that I can attend local things with alumni, with sports events, lots of different ways to get involved if I so choose, which is always an important part of socialization. They have also made sure that I have multiple ways to get answers to my questions. They provided me uh, with links to live sessions where you can go and actually ask people questions and get to know staff of the different departments. Um, I've just felt like there's lots of resources for me that I can easily find out information. It's not intimidating to find out information of how the program in the university works, how the online program works, etc. The reason I am focusing on my experience with the university as a whole is because as of right now, I have not been contacted by anyone or any group affiliated with the IO psychology program, graduate program. Granted, I am a new student. I did not begin at a traditional time. I didn't begin at the beginning of the fall semester. I started in the D semester, and so perhaps it hasn't caught up with me yet. But as of right now, I haven't experienced any sort of socialization process related to the IO psychology graduate program. Therefore, I will include in my answer things that I think would be helpful to an online student in this program as part of the socialization process. Socialization is very important in any organization, but I feel like with an online program, it's maybe even a little more important because of the feelings of disconnection already when you begin the program. You're not face to face with anyone, you're not having that regular interaction in a traditional sense with anyone. So I think processes to make you feel embedded and make you feel a part of the program, which is what socialization, a lot of socialization is about, would be crucial to helping someone succeed and do well in the program. So, things that I would implement would be, first of all, some sort of group or groups, maybe on Yammer or something like that. I did look for those on Yammer. I saw graduate online groups and I saw a psychology group, but nothing specific to the graduate program for IO psychology. It would be nice because it would serve so many things that are needed, such as information. It would be a great source of informal information that instead of having to ask your professors or such, that you could find out how other students did in certain classes, what their tips are, what they would say, this is super important, things like that that would help you to understand the classes you're taking better. Also, to just feel a sense of belonging, with people that you feel would somewhat understand you a little bit more because they've all chosen the same path that you're on in education. Also, it would be great to have those people just as connections. Part of the college experience is making connections with people. It's very important for college classes, but also once you graduate. These are people that will likely be my alumni and will be working in the same field as I will be working in. And so those are great connections to have. So some sort of group, some sort of way that students can connect with each other in this online environment. Additionally, I would love to see some sort of outreach from the dean or faculty to the students, especially to new students. It would be great to have an email or a live session with faculty or the dean or all of the above, just to say hello, welcome to the program. This is what our program is all about. Here's some history of our program. This is where we see the program going. Here's our vision for the future. And just to make that connection and to feel good about being part of something and to understand a little bit better what you're a part of. You do your own research, you, for whatever reason, you decide to pick a certain field, and now it would be great to have someone kind of confirm those reasons, back up the reasons why you chose that, and in addition, give you some new reasons, some exciting things about your chosen career path, your chosen program, what you're going to study, what's going on in that field. Those would all be great things. And also to just have some connections with staff members in that respect, that some people to contact when you have questions about things. So those are some of the things that I would like to see in a socialization process for IO psychology graduate program. Okay, number 3. How can an organization reduce or prevent work-family conflict? All right, according to our textbook, there are 3 primary strategies for reducing or preventing work-family conflict. These include organizational supports, supervisor support, and your own personal coping skills. However, to answer your question, I will focus on the role of the organization in helping employees reduce work-family conflict and increase work-family balance. One method that organizations can use is to implement work-family policies. So these policies could include things such as on-site daycare. They could include things to help the employee personally, such as an on-site exercise facility. They can also extend into areas such as work schedules, trying to make those work schedules more flexible and accommodate the various schedules and life demands of their staff members. This could include flex time, job sharing, or even telecommuting. One of the systems that I am very interested in is results only work environment, which is also called ROW. This was invented by Jody Thompson and Callie Rezel, and they invented it for the company Best Buy. ROW is a complete shift in the culture, the environment, the thinking of an organization. It pushes it to embrace flexibility in the work schedule. They say you can do your job whenever you want to, wherever you want to. The important thing is that the work gets done. I really believe that more and more organizations are going to begin to embrace such examples as ROW in workplace redesign. Not only have these policies shown to improve the lives of employees in such ways as improving their attitude and their level of job satisfaction, it's also improved things for the company as well. This has been seen in lower turnover rates, less employee absenteeism, and also it's increased their ability to attract more qualified and talented job applicants. One caveat to the implementation of these policies is ensuring that employees actually use them. Companies may have tremendous, great policies in place to help balance life and work for their employees, but if they're not used, they don't benefit anyone. One of the reasons that this happens is because supervisors sometimes create an environment or a feeling that is unsupportive to the use of these of these benefits. So it's important for organizations to create a culture that's open to and accepts use of these benefits if they truly want to help their employees balance work and life responsibilities. All right, number 4. Imagine you have been asked to develop a performance assessment program for employee development. What techniques would you use to adequately evaluate employee performance as comprehensively as possible? If I were to design an assessment program, I would focus on rating the employees on specific tasks. I would make my measures as objective as possible, and in doing this, I would need to construct them using a behaviorally anchored rating scale. This would help to significantly reduce the subjectivity of this measure. Also, according to Beebe, it provides more consistency across rater and circumstances, which this is highly desired. Also, most of the measures would focus on task-oriented behaviors. However, some would also include extra role interpersonally related behaviors because many of those are also task related. Raters would need to work together to decide on the dimensions for appraisal. These dimensions would include as many facets of the employee's role as reasonably possible to provide a more comprehensive evaluation. Also, the raters in working on these dimensions would focus on specific statements describing the levels of performance for each dimension. This language would be used to describe the language used to describe each level is crucial because this guides the employee in knowing how to perform those specific job tasks. And it also guides the rater in knowing how to evaluate that the task has been accomplished successfully. It's also important that the raters define as objectively as possible the type of behavior that represents each level on the scale. These definitions should be made in their own terms, they should be easy to understand, and to encourage consistency, they should be agreed upon across the team. Also, not only raters would use this scale, employees would also be asked to evaluate themselves using the same scale. I think this would help to give a more comprehensive picture of the employee and also help the employee to truly understand at a deeper level what is being asked of them and how they are being evaluated. In addition, I would extend the comprehensiveness of the evaluation by having peers and subordinates of the employee also evaluate them using a similar scale. This scale would, however, have more of a focus on the extra role interpersonally oriented behaviors. Lastly, I would make appraisals an ongoing process rather than just a once a year meeting in the boss's office. I'd like to see a smaller version of the larger appraisal piece acted out every quarter and have the evaluation results presented to the employee in a positive, growth-minded, set type manner. Finn said that employees must have accurate information and frequent information about their performance in order to improve their performance. They also need guidance to help them reach the next level of achievement in their role. I believe a more frequent examination of employee goals and their level of achievement towards those goals would be helpful in their continued progress. And this will also provide a more comprehensive evaluation of what they do throughout the entire year rather than once a year evaluation. And the final question, What are some possible common organizational constraints? How could they lead to counterproductive behaviors? Well, let's begin with a definition. Peter and O'Connor in 1980 defined organizational constraints as conditions at work that inhibit, interfere with, or fail to support an individual's performance of job tasks. If we think about it for a moment, just the word tells us a lot. The words organizational constraints. A constraint is something that constrains you, it binds you, it inhibits you, it prevents you from doing something you need to do. And this is something that's coming from the organization. It's not intentional generally, but it's just something that's part of the organization that puts a constraint on that employee. Some examples of this might be budgetary support, required services from others. You're waiting on someone else to get something done so you can do your part. Task preparation, training, time availability, physical aspects of the work environment even can be an organizational constraint. And these constraints inhibit performance by essentially holding back the employee in some fashion. And sadly, generally, the employee has little control over these constraints. Pindeck and Spector found that this often leads to emotional reactions, such as anger or frustration over being prevented from performing. Because generally the employee wants to do their job. They have this internal, intrinsic desire to accomplish those job tasks. Often they, in addition, have an extrinsic pressure on them from supervisors or the organization to do their work. But through no fault of their own, they're being prevented from it. Peters and O'Connor also noted that by blocking an individual's task goals, organizational constraints would result in frustration, dissatisfaction for the employee, and stress. Stress is a common result when organizational constraints are applied. Sadly, according to our textbook, stress is one of the primary antecedents to counterproductive work behaviors, particularly stress coupled with a low level of perceived control. This is part of the stressor emotion model of CWB proposed by Spector and Fox in 2005. According to this model, employees assess environmental stressors, such as organizational constraints. They perceive if this is a stressor or not. If it is perceived as a stressor and the employee has a external locus of control, meaning that they feel they have little or no control in the situation. These two factors coupled together often lead to CWBs. This is unfortunate because it seems that the employee wishes to do their job effectively, but because of organizational constraints, they're prevented from completing their job tasks. You can see how these constraints work to create stress in employees and the perception of little or no control, which then turns into counterproductive work behaviors. Thank you so much. This is the conclusion of my oral midterm. Bye.